I like what the writer of 2 Timothy says here. I like to think that, at least in part, what he is saying is, don't worry about words. Don't worry if you have it right. Just go and be a worker of God. It reminds me of my favorite quote from St. Francis, which goes, "Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words." In other words, we show others Christ by our actions. We show others Christ when we do laundry for them. We show others Christ when we serve them a hot meal. We show others Christ when we visit them in hospitals, rehabs, nursing homes, and prisons. We show others Christ when we act as Christ, and Christ helped those people whenever he could. Healing and compassion are two things that Jesus extended to people everywhere he went as he traveled toward Jerusalem. Take today's gospel, for example. Jesus was just walking through the countryside when these 10 lepers approach him for help. And Jesus helps them. He could have just easily have said, "Go away, I don't have time right now." But he didn't. He did what he could to help them. These 10 were the true outcasts of society. Their appearance would cause them to be shunned by other members of the community. From a distance, the lepers raised their collective voices to appeal to Christ. They begged for mercy. They needed some relief. Jesus was moved by them and sent them to see their priest. Immediately, as they turned to walk away, they were healed. At that moment, they received two gifts. First, they were cured by Jesus. Second, they were able to resume normal lives among their families and friends. You and I must respond to those in our community crying out for help. Jesus is counting on us to respond to his people in the same manner that he did. We are called to do the work of Christ in the world today. We are called to be the hands, feet, eyes, and ears of Christ in the world. As Jesus said, when you do to the least of these, you do to me. Another thing I find interesting in today's gospel is that it's a Samaritan that returns and praises God for the healing he received from Jesus. This isn't the first time Jesus has a Samaritan be the focal point of his story. There was a Samaritan that helped the traveler left for dead on the side of the road. Jesus spent time talking with the Samaritan woman at the well. That was a double whammy for those who first heard the story. First, there was a Samaritan, and second, there was a woman. Men didn't talk to women back then. And as you have heard before, Samaritans were outcasts. They were considered second-class citizens. So why does Jesus make Samaritans the heroes of his stories? And why does he have them be the people who do the right thing? It could be because Jesus wants us to understand that all people are worthy. No one is second class. No one is above another. In God's eyes, we are all equal, all worthy of God's love and grace. Just because someone is from another country, speaks a different language, practices a different faith, or looks different from us, doesn't mean that they are any less than we are. As faithful followers of Christ, we must ask ourselves, how can we show compassion to the foreigners and offer relief from the disease of tyranny? As the hands and feet of Jesus in the land, there must be a response that includes the same manner of kindness extended to the lepers. Let us be willing to graciously extend a hand to the foreigner afflicted with pain and fear and hunger. Let us fearlessly and with open hearts remind them of the love of Jesus, who makes no distinction of nationality or clan he seeks to provide comfort and love to a hurting world. As Jesus cares for all his people, the lepers, the outcasts, and the foreigners, so should we. One of the things I liked about my time at the VA was the fact that I got to meet people from different walks of life. I also got to visit with people of different faiths. I had the opportunity to talk with and pray with Jewish veterans. I visited with Christians of many different denominations, some of whom were very devout in their beliefs, and others who hadn't been in church in years. I visited with veterans who were of no faith, and even some who were atheists. I also visited a veteran who was Muslim. In fact, one night I was leaving another patient's room and heading toward the room of the Muslim, and a nurse stopped me and said, "He isn't Christian." I replied I knew that, and I had visited with him before. She was surprised. She thought I only visited Christians. I believe that is what Jesus wanted me to do. We are not to treat others as second class or worse, outcasts. I wasn't there to convert people to Christianity or to the Episcopal Church. I was just there for them, to be an ear, a kind word, or just sit with them and offer a prayer if they wanted it. It didn't matter who they were or what they were. All are precious in God's eye, and they all should be for us too. Preaching the gospel through actions, that is what we need to do. We are called by our faith to go out and help all those in need. Jesus calls us to do this, and our baptismal covenant, which we're about to recite again, calls us to do this. Just because somebody is from a country to the south of us doesn't mean they're a bad hombre. Just because they speak Spanish doesn't make them a drug dealer. Just because they are Muslim doesn't make them a terrorist. Just because they have dark skin doesn't make them a criminal. Just because someone is poor doesn't make them second class. God loves everyone, and Jesus expects us to treat everyone the same way we expect to be treated. We are to offer aid to all, any way we can. However, sometimes life can get in the way and maybe even throw up some roadblocks. I had volunteered at the VA Medical Center in Manchester for 5 years and really loved it. Then last week I got a call from the chief chaplain who told me that a new directive had come down from Washington, D.C. Going forward, they could not have any volunteers within chaplain services at any VA anywhere in the country. My time at the VA was over just like that. There are still areas within the VA where people can volunteer. It just can't be chaplain services. So here we have a situation where I and others, it didn't just affect me, want to help but can't. Fortunately, I also volunteer at the Veterans Home in Tilton, where once a month I lead a prayer service, visit with veterans there, and bring some community. Since they're not part of the VA, I can at least continue to do that. Jesus hung out with those considered outcasts and second-class citizens. Jesus gave aid to all regardless of where they came from. Jesus made foreigners the heroes of his stories. Jesus wants us to do the same. Jesus expects us to do the same. This morning, Jude Ryan and Theodore Scott will receive the sacrament of holy baptism and become new members of Christ's holy church. We all will be asked, will you seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? And will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? This is something Jude and Theodore will be expected to do. And this is something we are all expected to do.